All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I was going to start a little earlier, but there was a siren going by here, and I just didn't want everybody to. I wanted to make sure everybody knew I was okay. So, good afternoon, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I'm Scott Fischetti from Geopath, and again, just want to welcome everyone to today's Geopath out of home office hours. I know there's people still kind of coming into the room, so I'll just go through some housekeeping things and just give some introductions while everyone's just getting settled. But really excited about today's session. Really excited to bring this to all of you. We have with us today Jim Wilson, CEO of Talent America, and Dylan Mabin, president of Geopath. And I don't know if you all know, but recently Talent America partnered with BWG Strategy to produce some research about the industry. And today, Dylan and Jim are going to talk about that. When we saw this, we wanted to bring this to you all, and we wanted Jim to come on and just talk about kind of what they're seeing, what they found in the research, some of the findings, what they're seeing for the future, and why out of home should be everyone's choice for media in 2023. So, like I said, excited to have Jim and Dylan here chatting about that. One last thing before I jump off and hand it over to them, feel free to ask questions. We'll have a little Q&A session near the end. All we ask is if you can put your questions in the Q&A widget versus the chat widget. Sometimes it just gets hard to track them both. So we'll do our best, but definitely if you put them in the chat, we'll do our best to address and get to them all. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and with that, without further ado, I'll hand it off to Dylan and Jim and just say thank you and welcome.
Wonderful. Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate it. Jim, thank you very much for joining us. Like Scott said, we were really excited when we saw your report come out, just talking about people's interest of spending more in out of home and what people like about out of home and why they're sort of reconsidering or considering spending a larger share. Tell us a little bit more about what it was that you found in this study, because I thought it was pretty cool.
I was a little late on the trigger right there, so sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, I don't know if I was just getting my fancy new logo together or not, but anyway, Dylan, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
We talk to our clients all the time, right? We're in the business of client service, and talking to our clients, and what's always important for me is to understand obviously what our client needs are, right? So you can sit in meetings with clients and you're really there to listen to what they're actually saying directly and what they're saying indirectly about sort of what their needs are in terms of, spending overall, allocating dollars to out of home, what percent they allocate. So we get a lot of feedback throughout the year from our clients, but we do like to spend 2 cycles a year just reaching out to the broader community. And so we've partnered with BWG a number of times to just go out and ask the market questions, and questions around what are their thoughts and attitudes around out of home. We did it during the pandemic. We did it coming out of the pandemic. And I think with sort of the advances that are happening in the space, where I feel at least there are a lot of advances happening in the space, and I think the collective efforts of organizations like yours or ours and the rest of our friends who are listening in today, who are out doing education efforts, I'm starting to feel like, some really great trends. We're always ask ourselves, I always say this, right? Marketers are spending what? Only 5% out of home. Like, really? Like, when I left Connected Television to join Talent, it seemed like, wow, what a great opportunity for many reasons. But, frankly, it's an underutilized medium, and we're always trying to figure out from our clients, what more can we do? And of course, we always ask the question of, in your out-of-home budgets for the next couple of years, what percent are you planning on spending and in out-of-home? And, good news is more than 90% for the next couple of years plan on spending more than that 5%. We ask them, okay, so if you are going to spend more, where is it coming from? And about a third said it's coming from allocating social dollars, and about a quarter said it's from allocating TV dollars, and And then we say, okay, so, you're going to spend more, and where are you going to spend it? And about half said that, or 49% said that digital is a big attraction. So the increase in digital overall in this space is, I think a lot of that is, again, those social dollars or those TV dollars that are either looking for, video placements, et cetera, in the out-of-home market. But, digital is a big place where, they're spending it, and obviously. So it's 50-50 really at the end of the day between traditional and digital.
So
And
on the digital side, or I guess like, was there anything that you gleaned on what they particularly like about out of home? Like what do you think was driving the shift, other than they're trying to diversify? Like was there like anything inherent about the medium itself that they feel resonates, especially post pandemic? Like you said, like you've done this analysis or this research a couple times. Like if the consumer's changing, what do you think is resonating and aligning that strategy with who they see the audience be?
Yeah, look, I mean, one that I would say is, we are seeing new clients coming into the market just for programmatic purposes. So a lot of our programmatic clients that are coming in are actually digital spenders who are reallocating their digital budgets, i.e. social or others. I mean, I only talked about about half of the market in terms of where they're allocating. And so a lot of the digital dollars are coming over, and they're looking for digital placements, whether they are traditional, digital placements in Times Square, big digital spectaculars, or if they're looking for digital play space. So, I also think, not that, because we're big believers in data-driven planning, and also obviously in attribution and outcomes. So of course we can do that across everything. But I think, these advanced, I think for the most part, our clients are pretty advanced in terms of their capabilities. And so, leaning into digital has been easier for them because they're shifting those budgets and they're looking to take dollars out of those budgets.
I mean, you talked about attribution and being able to just have more answers for all the questions, like the demand, the expectation of the digital buyer, either in television, social, video, search, whatever it may be. Like that's becoming a language that we in out of home need to be well equipped to be able to speak that language. So what are some of the things that you have seen happen in the past like 2 years that you feel is positioning out of home to be at the table and be a part of that conversation?
Well, I don't know if anyone's allowed to say there's silver linings that came out of the COVID period, but I will tell you that when we were sort of sitting there in April and May of 2020, thinking about how we were going to look forward as a company, and we were building our own technology, whether it is our inventory platform, which is sort of driven by data, or Ada, our platform. We realized that at that time, what's the best way to convince advertisers to come to market? And it really was around proving out, attribution and footfall, and did you, were you able to convert customers? Because it was an interesting time for the out-of-home space, right? We had basically went from putting up the new breakfast menu from a large QSR to all of a sudden switching it out to directional signage to show that the drive-throughs were open. And so I think we've seen, at least for us, I think, marketers are always asking for, outcomes and attribution, especially in other channels. I spent time in the connected television space before I came here, but I also was in the out-of-home space running a media owner before that, right? And so we were affecting behaviors at the network that I ran, and we're measuring those behaviors, and we were doing that on connected television. Again, our buyers, I always sort of talk about the fact that we're out there educating our buyers, everyone in the community, whether you're a media owner, big or small, agency, industry organization, we're all out educating the market. And that market is a pretty sophisticated, advanced market in terms of their buying capabilities. And they're looking for us to come in and show us that we have those capabilities. And so, they're not necessarily teaching us to tell them about out of home. I think they generally have a sense for what out of home is. What they want to know is, what can out of home do? Can
Yeah.
you do, audience driven buying? Can you do outcomes, improve outcomes, and is there a common currency?
Well, I do think that that's been the change, and what we hear a lot is like the prove it. There was, everyone had their own perspective of what was happening for the past couple of years, be it because of the physical location of where you were, whatever it may be. Like there was so much noise. Everyone was looking for some ground to stand behind and say, okay, we just need to know what is the truth. Let's all align behind that. And then, like you said, like attribution and outcome. And I think that's another thing that the conversations changed in out of home. If you go back a couple of years, where if you used the term out of home media measurement, it had been primarily focused around, the TAB, DEC days of what's my number. And now it's very much outcome driven. Did it not just what happened, but did it work? And those are the conversations that everyone is being expected to be well versed in, and not just at the national level with big data driven agencies and brands, but also at the local level, because they now have through these social tools the expectation of, this is the bar, we need to be able to prove it. So that's been a challenging conversation in measurement, because when someone says measurement, it's like, well, what are you measuring? Are you measuring what happened? Are you measuring, did it work? And you've heard you say already a couple of times, outcome. Measuring outcome and performance is a really big thing, and that's where you can defend and justify and learn from campaigns and close that loop. But at the end of it, and I appreciate you saying it, but like there still needs to be sort of that currency level, what happened, and it sort of feeds into it. So I guess from a measurement perspective, and you kind of already hinted at this, but like, what are some of the things that you find either incredibly convenient, very useful, or what are some of the challenges around measurement that you still are finding today?
You mean in terms of attribution?
All of the above, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
because again, like there's both sides of it, and I think that's a big part of the conversation, frankly, that I would love the out of home community to be prepared to talk about both sides.
Yeah, I mean, educating the market overall on sort of the currency of the market, which really you guys are driving, right? And so that's an important part. I mean, much, if not everything that we base on is on Geopath data. We know that there are other currencies out there, and I think the industry itself needs to align behind or at least standardize that. That's very important. And I would ask everyone to really prioritize that. And, we as an agency are able to work with different currencies, but explaining that to clients is somewhat challenging. But it's not, we're not the only industry that may have different currencies, but we certainly have the opportunity there as an industry. I think, look, our bottom line is, I wake up every day. I always say my mission in life is to increase share of wallet in the out-of-home space. That's it, right? That's why I come to work every day. Other than we get to do some really fantastic, unbelievable projects, thanks to our clients and this incredible community that we're in. But what are we here for? We're here to really, grow this industry, and there's such a great opportunity to do that. Making sure that, again, our advanced buyers who are used to working with different currencies and different medium can align our currency to other currencies, because at the end of the day, they are, we were with a client yesterday. Every client, even though we talent specialize in the out-of-home space, we work every day in an omnichannel environment. And so connecting the out-of-home space into the omnichannel environment and being able to look at currencies and align currencies and align, outcomes is incredibly important to us. If you add out of home, are you getting an incremental lift? That's where, that's obviously what we're looking to do. And I mean, within the media mix that they're looking at, right? Because ultimately we want to see more dollars coming in out of home channel. I mean, that's why we exist. So
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of effort in that space right now. We have conversations And for those people that aren't aware out there, the MRC has draft out-of-home guidelines that we and many other players in the space have been working with the Media Ratings Council on. And that's part of that larger effort, again, to get out of home. It's been in media mix models, it's been in strategic planning tools, but is it an apples to apples comparison? Is it truly integrated so you can plan an omni-channel way? And I think it's awesome, some of the things that we have available today from an attribution perspective, again, because like you have the device identity that you can connect the entire path of purchase, exposure across all different media channels. But that's really the big thing right now. But what's been interesting also is that the media companies, media channels, I guess I would say, have been coming at it from their own silos for so long, and they have their own language. And we talk about trying to reconcile and create standards. The effort to reconcile standards and definitions across all of these different media channels is a huge undertaking. And so it's a lot to navigate, but I'm really excited that the out-of-home industry is sort of all focused around that. That was one of the big things that came out of our strategic work last year, was standards and definitions. The only way that out-of-home can justify its value to get a larger share is to make sure that we have clear standards so it can be compared alongside it. Because I think myself and a lot of other people out there think it's a completely undervalued medium, not just in the fact that it's only 4 or 5%, but also the CPMs that it's able to demand. It's one of the last, if not only, mass mediums that exist, but also it is capable of being used incredibly strategically.
Absolutely. I mean, I come from a previous space that the more targeted you get, the higher the CPM goes up. And man, I would love to see that here, right? Because you are driving more value for the client at the end of the day. And so, it's,
but you got to prove it.
You got to prove it. You really do. And so, look, I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work. And like I said, we are talking to a very advanced community, and they want to be talked to in a very advanced way. They don't really need to understand what out-of-home is. They want to understand how out-of-home is as advanced as they are. And so you talked about currency, but also attribution. And, again, I said that we accelerated our investment in Ada. Ada is our inventory data management. I mean, it's our data management platform that allows us to really, pick and choose which inventory that we should be, sort of data-driven inventory selection, right? Who has the what audiences will be exposed, and then, who was exposed. And then we sort of cross-reference that with mobile IDs and other things, and work with other companies on attribution so that we can look at, of course, we want to see conversions. I mean, a lot of brands just want to know what awareness was created, what brand lift was created, and that's easy. But I'm happy to see, website visits increasing, footfall traffic increasing. I love that we can work with a national retailer and move their boards around and see increased foot traffic because one board was more effective than another board. We've done that. I love that. Driving outcomes is really ultimately, at the end of the day, I think what we're here to do. And I think all media are doing, and that's what CMOs and marketers are looking for.
You talked about targeting audiences. How has the ask of targeting, I mean, obviously there's a lot more consumer profile information, consumer behavior, attitudinal information. How much of your conversations are like your advanced targets versus very ubiquitous, like demographics, age, gender, things like that? Like, what's that when you're going to a pitch or you're talking with clients, which you mentioned you love doing because you're there to solve for their challenges, like how are marketers talking about their audiences now?
Yeah, I think increasingly they're looking for the ability to target not just age demos or other types of demos. I mean, there's behavioral and there's other sort of psychographics that come into play. And we have, we work with data partners and again, have incorporated a lot of that into our own planning. We're seeing more of it, right? And the more aware that the brands are that type of capability could exist in the market, the more they're going to want it, right? So again, when I started Connected Television in 2016, it was how many people could you reach? What click, what was was it skipped or not skipped, and very simple basics, and then it just advances very rapidly. I think we're in a point right now where there's a lot of great work that's been done by this industry from our partners, from you and from others, where advances are being made, and the more advances we make, the more marketers are going to ask for it, and once they realize it's there.
But it certainly becomes a complicated conversation, certainly different from what it had been, but to continue to grow share, it's a prerequisite now. It's not nice to have. It's, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you got to be well versed in it.
Yeah, look, I think in any medium, if you try to get too targeted, you're going to narrow your audience down too far.
Right.
Not at home. I'm talking about other platforms, not just ours. But I think overall, the trend is toward, looking at audiences and, also sort of, can you ingest data sets that the brand has, or, we worked in political. So, political is huge on their using their data sets for targeting. And so our ability to do those types of things, that level of targeting is there and will only continue to increase. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do that.
Yeah, political is incredibly local, incredibly targeted.
Incredibly rapid and with high execution. I always say
I've got $1 billion to spend next week. What do you got?
or tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow. I mean, I'm serious. I've said the fastest way to start a business is starting it during political, because it's heavily targeted and it happens really fast. So you better be ready for it. So
yeah. So going back to some of the things that you've had in your other roles in different industries, one of the things, and again, out of home is rapidly expanding, and sort of the types of media, the networks that are popping up. You've got a screen behind you. I'm sure you could within 5 minutes turn that into a display network, and potentially monetize it. The fragmentation that we're seeing, again, fragmentation / diversity, other sides of the same coin. What do you see happening in out of home that you may have seen, and some of the lessons that you learned, and then that same challenge for television or connected TVs, things like that? Cable used to be, you had your one cable provider, everyone had their territory. Now everyone's got 14 different subscriptions. What can we do to make sure that we stay somewhat consolidated? Is it through standards, or what are some other mechanisms that we can make sure that this still moves forward, but all in the same direction?
Yeah. Just applying it backwards. When I started Connected Television, it was called Premion back in the day, or it still is, but Premion back in 2016, you had this large fragmented demand side, and to service national advertisers down to local advertisers, and connecting them to, at the time, which was a fragmented base of CTV apps and OTT apps, and there were so many. And so, we built out a platform that would unite the two and streamline that. And what happened on that side is the supply side consolidated over a couple of years. And so, that consolidation, certainly there's standards in that market, and currencies in that market that maybe are simpler, but that it consolidated pretty quickly. I'm not sure about the consolidation here. There has been some consolidation. Certainly we all believe, I think here, that out of home is as much a local medium, and frankly, an amazing local medium. And I spent time in local, I absolutely love local, as much as it is a national. So there's always going to be a fragmented demand side of this business. And I think because, look, we've got a number of major players here, but we have a long tail of smaller players here too. And automation is critical to making sure that we sort of democratize inventory. And make the best inventory available to our clients, having currencies across all of that and the ability to measure that and target all of them equally. I mean, that's kind of why companies like us exist, to be honest, other than, wanting to increase share of wallet. But I think we're going to remain somewhat fragmented on both sides. And I think that, technology and automation are a big driver of that. And then, like you said, currencies and how we all sort of collectively think about the market. And like every campaign that we do, I mean, any campaign that we do could have a mixture of traditional, digital, and programmatic in it. And so aligning all of that within, a common set of platforms too, or automation is also important.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think the way to, right. And I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be continuing to be complex and fragmented, but it doesn't necessarily need to be chaos, right? Fragmentation with alignment still paints a complete picture, but that's where I think the imperative of making sure that there's clean standards, single record of inventory, so everyone can say, okay, you're talking about that unit. Oh, it's unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. And then everyone can be doing their own thing. But if everyone's using the same map, everyone has that same sort of foundation, then everything can move forward quickly, because everyone's going to have their own unique network, their own unique value proposition, their own unique data stack, and their own unique way of selling. But without sort of that hub that connects everything, it's going to, that's what we are doing, everything in our power to try to reconcile that. And that's what I'm hoping.
I think so too. I mean, look, we work with media owners of all shapes and sizes, and we want media owners of all shapes and sizes to have an opportunity to be successful in this market, whether they're out there marketing their inventory or we are taking their inventory to market. So that's really important to us. And so, again, Geopath and other organizations working along with, everyone in the industry, it's all in our best interest to align the industry, and we can still remain fragmented. I mean, I'll think about it sort of in a very simple terms. We've got some big businesses and we've got some small businesses in our industry, and every one of them has a shot to be successful. And we want to, I think with everything that you laid out and what we've been talking about, that can happen.
So with the future of aligned fragmentation, what do you see as, I guess, what's the thing that you're most excited about now with 2023? Because some people are a little squirrely about the recession. Is it here? Is it over? Is it still coming? What's going on? In all of the noise that's happening, there is incredible growth in out of home, and we have recovered and continue to grow beyond where many of us had been even pre-COVID. What are you excited about from the channel in general, that you think 2023 we're going to see something that's new or finally coming to fruition that you're excited about?
Look, I think overall sort of data-driven planning obviously is incredibly important to us, and I think many of our clients, right? Are we intelligently selecting inventory that is going to deliver the highest ROI? That's really important to us. I mean, our platform can look back 20 years in pricing, but really, and attributes on boards, but really, what are the attributes right now? And who has the opportunity to see, or who we exposing the campaigns to? That's sort of one part of it. And I'm going to lump something that I think is really exciting into it, which is there are many media owners that are, not many, but there are some media owners that are now thinking and accepting the fact that real-time avails are an important, becoming increasingly important to a point where they're starting to test real-time avails. And some media owners are leading the charge there, and I want to thank them for that. They know who they are. And we are attached to Global Talent that, is a huge presence in the UK, where real-time avails are the norm. And here, the opportunity for real-time availability and inventory, and the way that some of those media owners are now thinking about it, just how sophisticated they are. It's really fantastic. So I'm very excited about that. I think that is, again, how do you bring more dollars in the industry? How do you increase share of wallet? You reduce friction in buying. And I think that's a big part of reducing friction in buying.
So-
The,
Availability, contemporary data, including availability, you need to know right now, not send a
It's
proposal.
that process of going back and forth, like, can I peek into the system to see what, if this inventory is available? And if it is, then I'm gonna grab it, as opposed to the weeks-long conversation that could happen across different communications. So I think automating the process of and reducing friction on buying, I think it's a step in that direction.
And that's not just programmatic, that's all of the
No,
above,
not
because I
just
think
that.
that's one of
No,
the other
that's
things that
a
a lot of
traditional
people.
business. That is,
Yeah.
can look ahead and see if something's available, at some point in the future, without having to go and have, a number of different cycles back and forth. It's inefficient for the media owner, it's inefficient for the client. And so that opportunity, I think, is a big opportunity for the industry. I think programmatic is the second one. I think, what we're seeing in programmatic is new clients coming into the market. We see our existing clients, and we're educating our existing clients on the benefits of programmatic to supplement a campaign. But we're also seeing new clients coming into the market that haven't been using out of home. And that, to me, is incremental dollars coming into, incremental dollars. So continued advancements in programmatic, and the great work that is being done either by the industry-specific DSPs and SSPs, or the omnichannel DSPs, which are now increasingly looking at home as a medium. That's great, and that's a big part of I think the growth of the industry, and we're seeing that, and we're seeing dollars come in. And then I think the third one for me is is just the advances in creativity. And so, we've always been a creatively led organization. I think most of us think about those, or many of us think about those billboards out there along highways and on buildings as art canvases that drive impact and get consumers to do things. And you can do things digitally that you couldn't do before. And as a former video games guy, believe it or not, when you do a augmented reality basketball game to launch LaMelo Ball shoes with Puma on the streets of New York, that's the thing you take your kids to, because you want your kids to realize that the industry that you're in is actually really exciting. So, and I think, the advances in sort of technology to create more engaging experiences and creative out in the marketplace is just going to continue to increase as well. And again, all of it is just, one thing I learned in being in the video games business for the period that I was in is technology is constantly changing. And right now, I think we're seeing a rapid cycle in technology, and it's really exciting. And I think that it all comes back to, are we as an advanced medium? We are, and we need to make sure that our clients know that.
Yeah, I heard someone say the other day that in more traditional or other traditional media channels, technology has been nothing but a disruption. It has decimated print. It made traditional radio. Now everyone's got streaming. Same thing with cable and broadcasts. Everyone's got their subscriptions and whatever other mechanisms. But in out of home, it has done very little but advance the channel and its new tools, new ways of repurposing our medium. And I think that really resonated with me. And especially when it comes, like you said, with reducing friction, the programmatic constituents of our space, the contemporariness and the precision and the connectivity is a must. It's inherent in their business, but those efficiencies are now starting to materialize and expand, and those learnings and those processes are coming out to more traditional print media in out of home. So I think that's really exciting. One of the other things that I'm curious about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think those of us who, I think probably everybody on here who lives in a world of technology know that it's constantly changing. And if you don't change, it's going to change around you. And I think the most exciting part of our industry will continue to be technology. We just have to embrace it. And I don't think it is disrupting our business. And frankly, when I launched Premion in the connected television space, it was all about the fact that a TV broadcaster realized it was coming and basically invested in a business that when the dollars were shifting away from TV was capturing the dollars of connected television. So some have the foresight to do that, and that's great. And I think we all here in this industry see that it's happening, and I see everyone embracing it.
Is there anything else in your conversations? Because one of the things that I'm always thinking about, and again, everyone has their story of how their life changed over the past couple of years, but I feel like the out-of-home space has become precious to people, that people yearn to go places and they see it. It's almost been reinvigorated as like a treat. You know, going shopping is very different from some of the tedious monotony of shopping online. And so people enjoy going out. Do you think that's another thing that has changed how marketers are seeing the opportunity of being in the physical space, that the outdoor experience is something that people are now yearning for?
You know, I just think it, you know, the way retail has changed, or out, you know, anything that's sort of location based. I think the world has changed, you know, well, it had been changing before, but not nearly as rapidly, I think, but as maybe post-COVID. But you know, it's just really about experiences and experiential. And like when I'm, you know, when you're out in a store or you're out shopping, you're craving experiences. When you're going into a location, I ran TouchTunes for a while. What was really fun about running TouchTunes was the ability to engage consumers in an environment to drive their behaviors, to create experiences that would delight them and increase. I mean, it's why I came to out of home. Like, you know, I always saw out of home from that experience at TouchTunes, and then marrying it together with my automation background at Premion, was to come back into out of home and drive that automation and efficiency that would solve for the fragmentation, but at the same time, like, create engaging experiences that delight people, that drive behavior. And I think that you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing it in retail environments, you're seeing it in restaurant environments, and you're seeing it in out-of-home environments. It's all about experiences. And I don't know, a lot of people have said coming out of COVID, people are craving more experiences. Maybe they are. We were all locked inside for a while. And maybe, you know, the experiential world is becoming more of the norm, which is fantastic because our industry is perfectly positioned to capitalize on creating experiences.
That's pretty great. And speaking of coming out of the past couple of years changing, you recently rebranded after your 10-year anniversary. What was the driving force behind that, and how are you guys sort of representing Talon?
You know, the industry is changing, so are we. We challenge ourselves, we challenge the industry, and you know, that's who we are by nature, right? And it was time for us to, with the wonderful work of our global marketing team, to really think through, and we went through a whole analysis of who we are as a company and what are our values and who are we as individuals and what role do we play in the marketplace and what role do we play with each other and you know, all of these things. So much work went into thinking about who is Talon and what role does Talon play and who are the people at Talon and you know, all of those things. There's a human side of it, there's a technology side of it, there's a client service side of it. And you know, I was so excited about it. I have to say, like, you know, I always joke around. I mean, no offense, but you know, when I came here, I was like, one of my first couple questions was, so when are we changing the logo? And so, you know, luckily, Sarah Parks came in and led that effort. She's incredible. And you know, when I saw what's behind me, I was just, you know, incredibly excited. And then, you know, you think about like, I'm sorry, I'm just like brimming because I just sort of feel like such great work was done. So much goes into, and then 3 words come out of it. But you realize how much work goes into a branding process and how many intelligent people and you're talking to clients and you're getting feedback. There's so much that went into it because it was about defining who we are and what we do as a company and what role we want to play in the company. And that's always going to be, to challenge ourselves and to challenge the industry. And I think we say that a lot. And of course, we want everyone to think outside, right? We do. And of course, there are different ways to interpret that, but we want people to think outside. Mostly, we want people outside. And we want people to look at outdoor advertising as the premier advertising, advanced advertising, because that's what we think it is.
It's really nice to be able to have that opportunity to sort of represent yourself, take the time to figure out what are your core values, what are you trying to do, what's different about you as a brand or organization. We've been going through the same conversation at Geopath, because things evolve. People have a perception of who you are, what you do, and through your identity, you can help re-articulate what it is that you are. We're really excited. I'm very glad that we're no longer the Traffic Audit Bureau. But Geopath's not necessarily rebranding in that sense, but we're certainly trying to take the learning from the conversations that we had with our members of who do people want and need us to be, and how can we better fill that and align how we present ourselves. And it resonates, and it changes just like internally your own company culture, having that guiding direction. It's very nice.
Well, we as a company, I'll just say, dominant UK company. It was a big attractor for me to come, to effectively start the US business, pre-COVID, that's kind of what we were, a dominant UK business. And then we come out of COVID and Barry Couples is, leading us globally and we're now a global company and we're expanding to Ireland and Germany and to Singapore and Dubai. And we have our global network and we're growing in the US and we're looking at how we continue to do our global expansion while continuing to grow in our current markets. And, Barry's been a big advocate to support us globally and a big driver behind the rebrand as well. And so we're a different company and we needed a different outlook and a different approach and really question who we were and what our role was. And, he handed that off to our marketing team and they just did a brilliant job. So I'm going to give them all the credit. And I'm absolutely delighted by the work because I think it just speaks to who we are. It's not just art.
So with a footprint globally, and you already mentioned something earlier about Avails in the UK, what are some of the things that you run into contrasting how out of home is thought of or how it operates in the US versus what is done globally? And what are some of the things that you've discussed or seen with your counterparts leading other areas of the globe that you think would help out of home in general in the US?
Well, we certainly learned a lot from our UK counterparts. I mean, again, one of the big attractors for me coming here, one was, working with, that global team that's was sitting in the UK, and now Barry had joined, and that was a huge part. But I mean, they had been really driving smart planning and tech-led business prior to us, and so I think that the creation of a ADA in the UK and bringing it to the US, the creation of a programmatic platform, bringing it to the US. So we had seen a strong automated business growing in that market with obviously there's differences in commercials between the markets, but certainly there's a lot to be learned there too. I think we have a little bit different we have differences in sort of how data is thought about here. It's in some way, I mean, it's very important everywhere, but the way some of our buyers think about data as being central and it should be in every buy no matter what. And how you monetize data here versus other markets, it's different. And so, one thing is we're a global brand, but we're empowered to operate locally. That's what Barry has built an organization around absolutely sort of thinking about how we as a global company can operate, but each market operates a little bit differently. You know, the US market composition is very different than other markets. We have the large holdcos in the US, but you know, they're driving a much smaller percentage of the total buy. The market here in the US is largely driven by, the incredible independent agencies all over the country and brands that are doing it directly. And by local, we have a massive local market here. So, and they think about out of home differently than say some of the larger buyers. And so our market composition here is very different. And so I would say we definitely learn from each other across the various markets. We as Talent, as a brand, and our technology is consistent worldwide, but we operate within our local markets based upon, what are the dynamics of the local market, whether it is, changes in technology, what are the standards in the market, or how is data considered?
Yeah, the alignment, again, the collective attitude of trying to get behind one particular, you'll hear the phrase, and it's been very vogue recently, the Joint Industry Committee, or the JIC, Joint Industry Commission. The interest of trying to get a particular entity, and this is basically what Geopath is for the out of home in the US, and we're unique in that regard. But the interest of trying to get behind one group to help align everybody, I think, has been something that I see internationally. Like you said, like Root in the UK, Move in Australia, a bunch of those groups. Even the World Out of Home organization has been working with entities across the globe to try to make sure that we're all trying to align. Where's everyone going? What's everyone figuring out? What's working? How can we learn from one another? We've got the MRC here helping us with the standards. We've got the OAAA working on that too, the DPAA. So there's lots of different groups trying to align. So I'm really excited about this year. I think it is going to be the year of alignment and standards and innovation in out of home. So I'm very excited about it. And I want to take this last time to say thank you real quick, but I think we may have some questions. So I want to see, Scott, is there anything that the audience would love for us to?
Yeah, just as you both were talking, I personally have some questions, but feel free to type in any questions, the audience as we're doing it. I just thought I'd get things going. You talked a little bit about, broader opportunities, like technology and how that's changing the industry. From your conversations with clients or even like that you're seeing globally, are you seeing any other opportunities, like any verticals, any new brands coming into the space that you're excited about, or do you see any trends like that happening either locally or that your counterparts in other countries are seeing that may come and impact us?
I would, look, I think a lot of the digital brands obviously are continuing to use the space, or increasingly using the space to gain awareness. It's funny, we often see the most digital brands using static outdoor to drive brand awareness. I think that's obviously something I think we're all seeing globally. I think we're just seeing brands that want to engage at a deeper level. I think that maybe what they're doing is where we're seeing is I think we're broadly represented across the various verticals. It's just that they're increasingly utilizing the out-of-home medium in creative ways. And so, moving beyond sort of traditional creatives sitting on a board for a period of time, to increase trade outs, to experiential, to moving to digital, to, grabbing onto, and thinking about just bigger opportunities. So really using the medium for everything that it has to offer, as opposed to components of it.
Cool. And actually this question comes from the audience. So just as we talk about growth, how do we start making more seismic shifts from traditional media since our media is proving to actually drive impression and attribution, like, and what are some of those educational hurdles that you see we need to get clients over to get them to understand and to get beyond this idea of traditional media?
And when you say traditional media, you're thinking about sort of television? Is that the thought?
That's the way I'm taking the question, and if the person who asked it wants to clarify.
You know, there are a lot of
but
people, there are a lot of people experimenting, you know, there are a lot, you know, a lot of people experimenting. I mean, it's, you know, a lot of people experimenting with, you know, the reach of TV and, you know, connecting out of home to it. That's a kind of an easy one, but, you know, we sort of see, we know that a bunch of broadcast companies own, you know, outside billboards. You know, we've been challenged recently to think about out of home and radio. We do think a lot about digital video and CTV. We believe in customer journeys. I think that is also something that's really interesting. So I think it's almost like aligning them, you know, what is the objective of each one and how can we, how are they each measured and how can you align them and how can you connect them? I think for us connecting, you know, one of our, you know, great media owners that we had dinner with recently was talking about just, you know, the opportunity for digital to be, you know, digital dollars are just such an easy move over to, you know, the digital billboards. It's true, but also digital video from connected television. I think many of our media owners are seeing dollars, especially on the digital play space side, seeing dollars coming in from the connected television side. So look, we do have to, you know, we're often thought of as a brand reach product or we're a full funnel product. So if we can deliver full funnel brand reach all the way down to outcomes, and we can go to each one of those buyers and show case studies and do tests and be patient with tests. We're doing some tests now on the Unwired digital video network. We think it's a great opportunity to organize a bunch of digital video networks together. To pull CTV dollars into the market. We think that's really interesting because we want to measure customer journeys. We want to see exposure in the household and exposure out of the household. And will we drive higher outcomes in doing that?
Yeah, I want to add on that too, because I was thinking of two things and you just touched on the last one, which is we have to prove it, right? You need that attribution studies. We need blinded case studies. We need to have examples of things that worked to take to the table to make sure that people understand that it is truly capable of being a media channel where dollars do move the needle. And then on the other side of that, I think the other thing that we need to do is continue to invest in better data and integration into planning platforms, because you can have all the proof that you want, but if there's no mechanism on the planning side that is integrating contemporary data to be able to say, okay, well, what is the expected shift if we go from, you know, 4% to 6% to 10% in out of home? What's that do in my purchase cycle? What should I expect from an audience delivery? So I think we need to prove that it works, but also make sure that we're investing in integrating into those omni-channel planning tools so that the planner can move that little dial over to
Right.
out of home and it have a difference.
Completely agree.
Right. And if you can, just one last question. I know we're coming up on the top of the hour, and you started to talk about this in your answer to the last one, but just from an agency perspective, and I guess the conversations you're having with clients, how should we be talking about ourselves in the out-of-home industry? Like, what would you say is the 1-2 key things that resonate with clients in terms of our value prop that you'd like us to start echoing as an industry?
I think that, you know, it kind of, you know, frankly, it helps us summarize a little bit of the conversation here, right? Which is, we have grown, you know, our sort of advancements in data and technology in the space have really moved us to become more of an advanced medium and one that can be bought within a media mix or in an omnichannel way, that we are a full funnel solution for brand reach and for outcomes, and that we continue to create really unmissable experiences in the out-of-home environment that drive impact, drive engagement. So we exist in this outer world where people probably spend 50 to 70% of their time, and only 5% of the dollars are there. But we are now able to target and measure and attribute and all the things that they know that they need in order to convince clients to shift dollars. And we're everywhere where they are, and we can create experiences that have impact, that are engaging, and that really can bring brands to life. And I tell you, that's one of the best parts of this job, is just the level of creativity that can be expressed. Yes, I loved my last job, but inserting 30-second spots into connected television ad networks, unfortunately, is not as exciting as the level of work that we see from all the creatives in this industry that are data-driven creative, that are delivering outcomes.
Thank
I think
you.
that's a great way to wrap it up. That was fantastic. Jim, thank you very much for your time today. Scott, thanks for
Thanks, Scott.
facilitating stuff.
Thank you. And we
I appreciate you having me on. All right.
Back.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. We really appreciate it. And thank you again, Jim. We really appreciate the insight and all the time. So thank you. Cheers.